Hi everyone, welcome to Red Fox Sewing and Crafting, and welcome to my craft room. I'm Joanna. So we have our inside cover done for our little binder album. Now we're going to work on the pages. So this is all of the pieces that we need for the pages. Going to go through them with you. You will need, you'll need 5 pieces that are 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. These are your pages. We will not be doing anything to them, so these are just going to go to the side for now. You will need 2 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. One piece that is 5 by 6 1/2. A piece that is 5 by 7 1/2. A 5 by 8 1/2. 6 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 pieces. 2 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. 2 4 1/2 by 12s. 1 5 by 7 1/4. 2 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. 1 5 by 12. 1 1 by 5 inch. A 2 by 2 3/4. 4 1/2 by 6 1/4. A 4 1/2 by 7 1/2. A 3 by 7 1/4. A 4 by 6 1/4. A 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. 2 3 1/2 by 5 1/2. 2 3 by 6 1/4. 2 4 by 6 1/4. 2 5 by 6 1/4. A 10 by 10. 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. 1 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. And 4 5 by 5s. Now I'm going to do this as short of a video as possible. A lot of these are really simple pages to make, but it might be a bit of a longer video. But we will get through it together. So, starting at the top, we're going to work on our 2 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. And you want the 4 1/2 side at the top. And we're going to score both of them at 1/2 inch. And I would probably advise you to keep these in order of the pages of the cutting guide, because then it'll just go a little faster, because all of these are in page order. So these first few will be for page 1, and then we'll have the piece for pages 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5, and so on. Our 5 by 6.5, you want the 6.5 at the top, and we're going to score at 3. Then we're going to turn it around with 6.5 at the top again. We're going to score at 3. So you want to score at 3 on both the 6.5 inch sides. So then you'll have a 1/2 inch section in the center, just like this. Oops, sorry. 7.5 by 5 with a 7.5 at the top. Again, we're going to score at 3 and then turn around so that the other 7.5 side is at the top. And again, we're going to score at 3. And with our 5 by 8.5, we're going to do the same thing. Score it at 3. Turn it so that the other 8.5 is at the top, and score at 3. Our 6 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 pieces. We are going to score at 3/8, 7/8, and 1 3/8. So 3/8, 7/8, and 1 3/8. And you want to do that to all 6 pieces. Once those pieces are done, you want your 2 5.5 by 5.5s, and on one of the 5.5 inch sides, you want to score at 1/2 inch on both pieces. Actually, here. I'm going to score my second one at 5 so that I have them a little bit more squared up. Our 2 4.5 by 12s, you want to score each of them at 6 inches on the 12-inch side. Five by 7 1/4. We're going to start with 7 1/4 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2, turn, 1/2, turn, and 1/2. Your 4.5 by 4.5, one side, score at 1/2 inch. 5 by 12, you want the 12 inches at the top, and we're going to score at 6 inches. Our 1 by 5, with the 1 inch at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Our 4.5 by 6 1/4. There we go. Oh yes. So this one is going to be scored a little weirdly, so I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, so starting with the 4.5 inches at the top, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch, and then you want to turn it so that your 1/2 inch mark, your 1/2 inch tab is at the top, and you're going to score at 1/2 again. So that looks like this. Your 2 by 2 3/4, you want the 2 3/4 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch. 3, just a moment here. Three by 7 1/4. You want the 7 1/4 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2 and at 6 3/4. 4.5 by 7.5. Nope. Here we go. This one. With a 7.5 at the top, you want to score at 2.5. Your 4 by 6 1/4. With the 4 at the top, you want to score at 1/2 inch. We're leaving our 4.5 by 4.5 alone. It's going to be a mat. The 2 3.5 by 5.5. Gonna score both of these with the 5.5 at the top at 1/2 inch. Our 2 3 by 6 1/4, you want the 3 inches at the top. Score both of these at 1/2 inch. The 4 by 6 1/4, you want the 4 inches at the top. Score both of them at 1/2. The 2 5 by 6 1/4, 5 inches at the top. Score them at 1/2. Your 10 by 10, you want to score it at 5 on both directions. And then what I find easiest to do for the next part is to just put this in the corner, or do it by hand if that makes it easier for you. I kind of want to make sure that my points are as even as I can get them. So just like that, and then I could just lay it on my scoreboard. Let me grab my mat. It might be easier. And then you just want to score it down or fold it down the center. If you want to use your scoreboard, you can. I just want to try to get mine as even as possible, and in my experience of making these, a scoreboard didn't work very well for me. So I just do this part by hand. And it works pretty well. So there's the 10 by 10. So I made a little oopsie. I did do some changes in my my prototype that I didn't write down. So for page 10, and this will be in the cutting description, the cutting guide and description below. For page 10, you will need 1 10 by 10, 4 5 by 5s, and 5 by 5s you won't score. We already scored the 10 by 10. You will need a 2 by 5.5. This you will not score. And then you will need 2 2.25 by 3 3/4 pieces. And if I can find my score tool. For the 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 pieces, you want to put the 3 3/4 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And I believe at 3/4. Yes, at 3/4. So again, that is going to be, with the 3 3/4 at the top, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch and at 3/4. So let us start. Oh shit. So how we're going to do this is we are going to build the pages flat, and then once you're done, you want to you want to decorate your pages. So put all your ephemera and ribbons and pattern paper on them if you haven't added it while you are making it. And then you can go and punch the holes on the appropriate sides and put them in your album. Because this one's falling apart. If you look at this, once you have, if it's glued in properly, once you have it all in, it's going to be really bulky, and also you want your pattern paper on before your punch, because then you don't have to guess where you originally punched if we don't put the pattern paper down during our while we're putting things together. It's just going to be a lot easier. So, we're going to start with page 1, and somewhere I should have another piece of ribbon. Right here. Okay. First thing we're going to do is add our ribbon. This is the only page that requires ribbon. If you want to put ribbon on some other pages, you can, but I would recommend you kind of watch this video first, or watch the walkthrough in the first video to see which pages would work better with ribbons if you do want to go that route. Because some of these pages are better done with magnets. So I'm just putting my ribbons on the 2 longer sides of my page here. I'm just using my mat to center everything. And then we're going to take our 2 4.5 by 5.5s and just going to probably should have folded and burnished everything first, but I didn't do that. So fold and burnish all your pieces, and then I will tell you which pieces to miter, because there might be some that don't that you shouldn't miter, and I will let you know if there are any. Okay, so we have our page, And we're going to put these two flaps right over top of our ribbon. That's what it's called. And again, we're just going to center them on our page. I'm sorry if my head is in the way. Try not to do that so you guys can see what I'm doing. And the second flap you put on, you want to make sure that it lines up with your first flap. So I'm just kind of centering it on the page and then also lining it up with my first flap. Okay, so before we put on our waterfall, we need to cover the base of our base page. So I'm going to do that really quick, and then I will be back to show you the next step. To do the waterfall for page 1, you will need the 5 by 6.5, the 5 by 7.5, and the 5 by 8.5. I folded and scored them, and then I put double-sided adhesive on the back of all three in the center section between the score marks. Let's start with the 8.5 and the 7.5. So, to do this, all you need to do is add your glue to the back part between the score marks, and then you want to center it. And it's going to be 1/2 inch on either side. So I just line it on my mat and between onto 1/2 inch marks, so like a whole inch and then 1/2 inch on the for the other score mark, and then just stick it down, and that'll give you 1/2 inch between the fold of the top piece and then the fold of the bottom piece on both sides. And then this one is going to do the same thing, and it's basically just we're just putting them in the center. That's all it really is just putting these in the center of the previous piece. And also you want to make sure that your the sides of your waterfall are flush with each other. So once you have your third piece on top, it should look like this, 1/2 inch showing on the bottom two pieces. And then we could just fold the top 3 pieces down, just like that, to make our waterfall. And then we bring this in, and we're just going to put this on. This is a 6 1/4 piece. This is a 5.5, so that is 3/4 on the or 3/8 on the top and the bottom. Gonna grab my ruler, put it at 3/8 centered so that I can get this in the center of my page. And when you put it down, you just want to glue down the center of the back piece. And right now, well, it kind of does, because once you put it on, if you flip it like this, then it's gonna be in the way of your flaps. So this, once you put your waterfall down, this is how it's gonna be. This is the right way for your page. So I'm going to tie this. I'm gonna tie my ribbon in a bow. Then I'm gonna take a pen and write 1 at the bottom, because this is page 1. Pages 2 and 3 are going to be the same. So you'll need the back of page 1, and then you're going to need another piece. Right now, we are just going to be doing the 2 5.5 by 5.5. These are just going to get folded and burnished. You want to miter the corners. And then I'm going to put some double-sided adhesive on these really quick. And these 2 flaps are going to go on the outside of our pages. So with our page 1, you want to make sure that when you flip it, so if you look at page 1 right way, this is where your this is where your binder is going to be, the binder holes. So you want to turn it over. You want to put your flap on this side. So I'm just going to put my page so that the side I want to put my flap on is on the opposite side of me. It's facing away from me. Ooh, and not put my finger in the glue. That'd be nice. And we just want to center this. This is possible. There we go, there's one. And then our second one. There we go. So it's time to make the pages. I already did one. It's gonna be really easy. Before you start putting everything together, you do need to put paper on the base page, the inside of the flap, and one outside part of your your 4.5 by 12. So one side of this long piece, your inside flap, and then your base page. And I folded all of my pieces here. You won't miter your 6 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 or your 2 4.5 by 12s, just your 2 5 by 5.5 by 5.5s, which we already put on our pages. So to do this little flappy flap here, you will need to find the center of some things here. So you need to find the center. I find it easier to do the center of the flap. So find the center of the flap. Find the center of one of your 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, making sure that it's on one of your tabs. And then on the folded center of your 4.5 by 12. Okay. So take the piece that you measured, or you found the center of, add glue to that side, and then you're going to line up that mark with the mark on your flap, making sure that your 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 piece is lined up with your score mark of the flap. And then you want to close your flap like that, like this, with your small piece sandwiched in the center. And we're just going to burnish right along that score mark to get that glue to stick on the flap and your little piece. So it should look like this. And we're going to carefully fold this in half at the 7/8 inch score mark. That's the half score mark. And we're going to add glue to our other 3/8 inch piece right here. And again, we're going to close our flap. Might need to encourage it a little bit to close. Then we're going to burnish this again, because you want to stick really well. So when you open it up, you should have a triangle like this. You want to take your 2 other pieces. We're going to add glue to one of the sides, and you want to line up the score mark of that tab to the center score mark of your triangle. Just like this. Okay? One of your second piece is here, and then the triangle is right here. It should be flush right along here. If you hear any scratching, that's my little dog. He likes scratching up the places where he's gonna lay down at. It's kind of annoying. So we're gonna add our third piece to the other side of our triangle. You want to do your best to line it up with the top of your triangle and the edges so that it looks like this. You have 2 wings on either side of your little triangle here. And we're going to fold these 2 pieces that we just added in half so that we have 3 triangles here. And then we're going to add glue to our last 2 3/8 inch tabs. So my 2 top pieces are folded in half. I have glue on my little tabs, and then I'm just going to carefully close this. And I'm going to burnish this really well again to get the glue to stick. Oop, nope. Sometimes the glue just doesn't want to stick, and that is okay. Just do it again. Add glue and burnish really well until it finally decides to stick. And then when you open it up, you can kind of squish down the sides to get it to stick a little better, like this. And then your pieces should look like this. You'll have a flat top. Now we want to measure the center of this. Just be careful and don't flatten it out too much, because you want this to stay popped up like this. Once you have found your center, just add glue to the 2 flat pieces that are raised up. You don't want to add glue to these 2 angled pieces, otherwise this won't work. And then you want to add your 4.5 by 12 piece, lining up the mark you put on the folded edge of that piece to the mark you just made on your pop-up piece. And one last time, we are going to close our flap. You want to make sure that this is as straight in your pop-up piece as possible, and burnish. And once you open it up, it should pop open like that. Now, to get it to be permanent, I would leave these alone for a bit, just so that the glue dries really well. So don't like open and close it a lot for a while. Just let them dry. Now we can add the 2 and the 3 on the bottom of our front flaps so that we know that these are the next 2 pages. We can work on page 4. So to get started, we're going to work on our 5 by 7.25 first. And we want to start with the bottom of our pocket. And we want to put this on the same side as the flap on our page 3. You can put tape on the bottom tab of the pocket if you would like. But I'm just going to put this down, put the sides down without doing that. In my prototype, I did use magnets to close the 2 flaps, but in this, I'm going to use some ribbon. So I'm just going to use my mat and put my ribbons down centered on the top and bottom of my pocket. And once that's fully done, I will be back and we will put the flaps on. So, flaps, really easy. Just gonna put them on the top and bottom of our pocket. And these are the same size as our pocket, so you just want to make sure that they're even with each other. And the top and the bottom of the pocket is even with the sides of the flap. And there you go. Page 4 is done. Just gonna tie my ribbons closed. And then we can add a 4 at the bottom. Page 5. Your 2 by 2 3/4 piece, you want to miter the 2 ends, the 1 by 5, fold it in half, and then miter out from the center so that it looks like this. Your 4.5 by 6 1/4, you want to miter the 2 sides and then cut out the square in the corner. And then for the 5 by 12, you just want to fold it in half. So I'm going to start with this piece. So you want the opening on your right, and we're going to put the pocket on. going to start with the side. You want to put the side of your pocket on the right side of your 5 by 12 piece. So that's like that, okay? And then we could put the bottom down. You just want to line up the bottom with the bottom of the flap. So then you have a pocket that opens on the left, and then you have a flap that opens on the right. Gonna flip this over so that the pocket is on the bottom and the opening is on the right. I'm going to take our 1 by 5 and we're going to put the scored side of our 1 by 5 along the edge of our flap. And you want it on so that the your hinge, your 1 by 5 is on the cut edge. So you can see you have the pocket with the opening over here, and then the open part of your flap here to the score mark here to your hinge here. Okay, so now we're going to attach all of this to our base page, and you want to line it up with the bottom right of your page. Like this. So then you have your pocket here, it opens up like this, and then it fully opens like that. And then we are going to add our little tab, and it's gonna get centered as best as you can to the top, centered with your flap. And your flap is 6 inches. And if you need to, you can trim your tab a little bit. I'm gonna do that really quick here. So I'm just gonna use my blade for this. Just gonna trim off like 1/4 inch, I'd say, to start with. And that worked. And now we're going to add some more magnets. Gonna need 3 magnet pairs for this page. first magnet pair is going to be on the flap. On the flap, and then on the on here on the 5x12. So I might just have to play around with my adhesive so that I don't get any sticking out too far. Our second pair is going to go on the back of our flap. So one here, and then the second one is going to go on our base page. Right here. And our third pair, with my magnets magnetizing to each other, it's going to go in the center of our flap. So one here, and the second one is going to go on the other side. That way, everything closes. So, little flap here, this here, and this here. Actually, you don't really necessarily have to have this flap if you don't want. I don't know. Part of me is kind of thinking not to put it on. So I'm going to take this one off. And then, because you don't really need it. So, that way you will have, two versions. One with and one without the tab, because I just realized that the tab isn't necessary. So tab is optional. This is how it looks with the tab, and this is how it looks without. You'll see it better once I have all my paper on. But this is page 5. Page 6. Page 6. Make sure you have the hinge, the whole side on your right. So then you should be feeling a bunch of stacked stuff over on your left. And then your 3x4 7 1/4, you can miter the sides of your 2 tabs if you want. And then So then it looks like this. We're gonna start with one side, because it's easier. And you want to line up your ruler. And your belly band, this is going to be your belly band. It's going to go an inch away from the side. So your hinge is here, and then your outside edge is here, and you want it to be an inch away from your outside edge. So then we can put maybe put the second side down. Or if you wanted to, you could put paper down first and then put your tab down if you find that easier to do. I like to and that is not right. I like to put my both sides of my belly band down and then add my pattern paper, because I find that it looks a little neater, and I can usually get my pattern paper in really easily. And then with your 4.5 by 7, we're just going to add some magnets, and I'm just gonna reuse the magnets from the page 5 tab because I have them. It's gonna be really easy. We're just gonna put one on one side, and you kind of want you do want to put your first magnet on the 2.5 inch side, just so that you know that's gonna actually be on this piece, because the 2.5 inch side is the smaller side. And then we're just going to close this up to attach the other magnet. And there you go. There's your mat. And then it just slides in like this and magnetizes to your belly band like that. And it might slide down a little bit, but if you don't put too thick of paper on it, it'll stay pretty well on there. And that is page 6. Pretty easy for that one. Page 7, we have our 4 by 6 1/4. You want to miter the two sides. Then we're going to add a little bit of glue to our tab and put it on one of the short sides of your base page. And next you want to add paper to the outside of your flat and the back of your 4.5 by excuse me, your 4.5 by 4.5. So I have my two pieces covered. We're going to attach this, and the way to do that is this is actually going to get centered on the page. So I am going to make a few marks to make it easier for me to get this all centered. I'm gonna start with the long side. And now my other dog is whining because she wants out. But she wanted in here first, and I am recording. So she's stuck in here until Mommy's done. And I'm going to switch to my smaller one to make it easier for me to center things. Just gonna get that to dry a little quicker because I don't want it to smear everywhere. So that would suck. Okay. Now that I have that centered, I can approximate where I need my glue. So I just line it up with where I want it to go, and then I just kind of grab it where my marks are. And then I can just, maybe line it back up. And I do have a little glue poking out, but I can fix that. There you go. Now we just need to add a magnet closure. Right. One on the top of the flap and one on the base page. Here, page 7. Pages 8 and 9. Did the first one, we'll do the second one together. All the pieces you need for these 2 pages, you want to miter the corners, miter the tabs, and we're going to start with the 5 by 6 1/4. I'm going to add this to the outside of the outer side of our page. Page opposite of where the hinge is going to go. Then you want your 4 by 6 1/4. I'm going to put that right on top. And then your 3 by 6 1/4 is going to go on top of that one. So you'll have stacked flaps. Just like this. Now you want to cover the base page with pattern paper. Once you have your base page covered with pattern paper, it's time to put on the flap, and that is going to be 2 3/4 away from the hinge side. So I'm just going to grab my 2 rulers here. Line my first one up at 3/4, and then these two are 2 inches wide, so I can just put this one right on top. This, find my centering marks. And then we can just stick this right on top, like so. And now we need 2 more magnets. So I'm going to grab some more double-sided adhesive. One is going to go on top of the flap. And the second one is going to go on top of the top flap. Don't miter your what is it? Your 3.5 by 5.5, because you will see the tab. I completely forgot about that. I mitered both of mine. You can just put a strip of paper over that and you won't even notice. So that is pages 8 and 9. So this one's 8 and this one is 9. Page 10, you will need to put pattern paper on top before we do anything. So the only pieces that need to be mitered are your 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 pieces. You just want to cut the miter the 1/2 inch tab. You want to leave the 1/4 inch gusset alone. I did not fully fold this piece because we need to do some cutting and special folding for this. So for the cutting, you want to cut one of the straight pieces, straight score marks out. You just want to do it from the edge to the center. And then what I like to do is fold these back, and then this can get trimmed flush in the center. Maybe. There we go. Okay. To fold this, you want your diagonal scores that you did. If you folded them by hand, you want to have them so that they're mountains, okay? So we're going to fold the diagonal piece under like this, and we're going to fold the side up like that. Fold this under, fold this up, fold this under, fold this up. So it looks like this. Okay, then we can undo this, and now you want to grab your 4 5x5s and your glue. Let me just check really quick to make sure I'm not doing it wrong. There's a special way to do this to get it all right. Okay. So, you want to add glue to this piece, this piece, this piece, and this whole section. Let me show you what I mean. So, we have our glue here, and you want to glue this whole section. You want to make sure not to go over the diagonal score mark. And I like to put my pieces so that they line up with the center corner. And then I can just get this around and trim off any excess I have with my scissors. So I'm just going to hold this as best I can against the top and just carefully cut along the edge of my page to cut away the excess of my 5x5 that's not flush with my base piece here. Oh, it's raining. Guess I don't have any plans today except stay indoors and craft. Next piece. I want to add glue to this section, making sure not to go over either of the score marks. And then you add your next piece down, lining it up with the center corner and the score marks, because you want this to fold really well. Don't want to have any issues folding it up. And then again, I'm just going to go from the back and cut my excess off. Maybe let's try this way, maybe possibly. There we go. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to cut the excess off, but just do your best. Next side. Add glue to this section, not going over either score mark. I'm going to keep it in this triangle here. Add your next 5x5, line it up with the score marks in the center corner. I'm going to turn it over and cut the excess off. In the last section, you want to go over the whole square, not going over this score mark right here. And then put down your last 5x5, lining it up with your sides. And then we can trim the excess off. Then, if you hold this down and pick this up, you should be able to rotate all of this like so. And then just squish it down really well. And then there. So best way to do this is have it completely open and then put arrows where the two sides are on the top piece. And then we can close this. And it's going to be a little confusing because it's going to be wrong way, but okay. And I'm also going to put top here so that I know which way is the top when it's all the way open. So, it looks a little confusing, but and then I just have CT on there so that I know where the closed top is. And now we can add our tabs. Glue. So I'm going to line this up on my mat. And then line this up on my mat as well, so that my tab gets glued down to the back where I want it. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And you do want them lined up with each other. So this one isn't lining up. There we go. Oops. Add a little bit more glue and try again. Could do this method. It might be a little easier. All I'm doing is just kind of pinching this one that I put down so that I can line up this one a little better, so that they'll actually line up. It's a little better. It'll do. Now we can add this to our base page. And I believe, yes. So it's going to be 5/8 on all 3 sides. You just want to put glue all over the back, just like this. I'm just going to center this. Like so. Squish it down. And then you want your 2 by 5.5. I'm going to put this under my 2 tabs on the front, and you want to fold it, but you don't want to burnish it very hard, and you don't want the folds to be right up against the tabs, so that it can move fairly easy. And then we can just add a little bit of glue to the top of one side and the bottom of the other. Stick them together. And there's your closure. And that is page 10. All of our pages are now done. So now you just have to go through and add all of the paper and ephemera and everything to your pages before you can insert them. So I'm going to do that, and then we will be back to show you how to add them into your binder. So to punch out the holes, all I did was make a template, and this is the size of my page, 6 1/4 by 8 1/4, and then on one side, one of the short sides, I marked 1/2 inch away from the short edge, and then 1 3/4 from the top and the bottom, and just punched 2 holes where my marks ended up. And I'm using my Crop-A-Dile here, the 3/16 inch size hole, and I'm just taking one of my pages here, lining my template up with my page, making sure it's on the right side, the hinge side. And all we're gonna do is just put this in the Crop-A-Dile, line up where the original holes are made as best you can, and just punch. See, now I have 2 holes. And then once you have all of your pages punched like this, all you need to do is make sure that they're right up, that they're in correct order that you want them in. And then you want to grab your cover and just start from the back and slide them on. There is a hole punch that does go with this binder mechanism, but I personally don't have the justification to buy one because I won't be making any more of these in the future, I don't think. So I don't need one. But if you do want to make more of these albums with the binder mechanism in it, that would be a really nice thing to have. And there you go. There is the album complete. I hope you liked making this different style binding album with me. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of this type of stuff, me making albums and boxes and things, hit subscribe. And I will see you next time.